Hello again, everyone. This is Randy, your sewing machine man. Today we're looking at a Singer. It's the Scholastic Plus, and the model number is 6550. The reason we're looking at this one, it came in for service for a real good customer of mine who's going to give it to her daughter. She upgraded to a real nice front load 15 class Kenmore with an alloy frame and steel gears. Like I'm always telling you guys, you need to go out and get. It can be the real rare 385, or it can be the more prominent 158 series. But I always say 158 series Kenmore front load 15 class. If it's a top load, it has the, composite gears, nylon gears, whatever we're calling them. But if you get the front load 15 class 158 series Kenmore, or the 385, a couple of those rare models, front load 15 class, chrome, steel, good stuff. Very robust. But she's got that now. Her daughter's going to get this, and she doesn't sew a lot, and she doesn't need the robust workhorse that the Kenmore 158 is, or any of the Singer Scholastic. This will do her nicely because she's going to be an occasional sewer. So I'm not telling everybody to rush out and buy this, nor am I giving it my buy recommendation, because that's what you folks will say in the comments. You'll say, oh, should I buy one of those? If you have one, make the best of it. But I wouldn't seek one of these out, because you can do better with probably the same money. But this one's in the family. It's going to go laterally to another family member, and she's going to get it, and it's going to work out fine for her, because she's not going to try to do something like the people that get the ones that say heavy duty. See, this is just a decal that goes on there. You can take the Scholastic off and put heavy duty, and it's basically the same machine. Same motor, same setup, same drop-in, same gears, same stitches. But the one that says heavy duty, I'm getting a lot of flack about that, because people say, if you don't like them, why don't you quit fixing them? Well, my customers that aren't my customers until they buy it and they bring it to me, and then they find out, then they end up getting a Kenmore or Singer, Scholastic or something like that. But people have what they have, and they bring it to me, and I fix it for them, and I tell them what they need to know, and that's what these videos are all about. This machine will work for this young lady, because she's going to be an occasional sewer, and it'll do what she needs to do. It's got all the stitches you'd ever want to either repair or construct a garment. All the stretch stitches, built-in buttonhole. Although it's got this goofy flagging device that I'm not a fan of, because it works intermittently and not like the Kenmore that has the built-in 4-stepper, which is really nice. So this one here has the reverse up here, which is kind of awkward. Normally it's over here or a button, but folks that have this, they get used to doing it, and it works for them. I'm not a fan. It's got a plastic thing in there that breaks off, and these were in the school. They call it the Scholastic because it was the school model. The schools bought them because they were cheap, disposable. The kids would tear them up, they'd throw them away. That worked for a lot of the school districts. Some of the school district I go to, they have real nice Berninas. They're usually out in the very rural sections of the world, small towns, and the kids respect them. They take good care of them. And some of the places you go, the machines are basically disposable, because the kids have found out if there's something gets broke off, then they don't have to do anything in class that day, so they break them off. Yeah. I used to go to the, when I worked for Singer, I'd go to the schools, and they'd have 20 machines, and I'd have to take 20 of everything that would come off. Anything that would unscrew or break off, they would be missing. So we'd have to redo that. So getting back to Scholastic, you take this little decal off. It could be any Singer they have. This is a school model. I'd go in there. This has a plastic driver in there. They break very easily. This breaks very easily. But it's not a bad machine if you're going to respect it, be nice to it, and not try to sew on denim or leather. Just sew on garments. Sew on a couple layers of shirts, jammies, blouses, and pillowcases. Let's get started. Stitch length, stitch width, stitch function. There's a little dial over on the side. Been doing it that way forever. It's no big deal. It's got a plastic cam, metal followers, so that's good. It's got the straight stitch when you go on to A here, and you can make it a left needle position by taking this all the way over to the far left, and it goes in left needle position for sewing on, tricot nylon jersey when you need that extra support on the left-hand side. So it's got the left needle position, center needle position, and if you go to B, you'll go to zigzag, okay? Then you pick out the width you want and the length you want. Usually between 2 and 3 10 stitches per inch, and that'll be the width you want. So you just figure out how you want it to go, forward, back, wide you want it to be here, how long you want it to be here, and this is a stitch function here. To go to the E, that's your real nice elastic stretch. E is a 3-step zigzag for doing elastic. It's a very nice stitch to have. You can get it real close together or real far apart. So you can lay elastic flat and it'll sew and expand as far as you want without breaking, or you can expand it and sew it and it'll go back and forth if you want to get something that has maybe a cuff or something around it. You know, either way you want to do it. So that's good. Got all the basic stuff. Stretch stitches over here. You just bring this over to where it says stretch, and that's going to be right there on the S. And then all these stitches then become these over here. B becomes this one. E becomes this one. Put your width on it and it becomes a stretch cycle stitch. Once you figure that out, these are the utility, these are the stretch. These are the same ones with the stretch function. This machine stitch right here is a decorative stitch till you get over here and it becomes a stretch stitch. So we put it on straightforward between 2 and 3. We're going to do a straightforward stitch because it's in the black utility section, not the stretch, which is color-coded with the red S. Get over here, put it between the 2 and 3, put it on A, and 99% of your sewing is going to be A. And you put it over here on 0, center needle position, and away you go. And that's to get you started sewing with this thing. If you got a book with it, that's nice to have. It'll help you out a great deal. There may be other videos online to show you how to do this stuff. This is my quick run through because I'm going to show you some other stuff as well. This one, if you're sewing along with this one, you get a lot of sewing going, and maybe you get a piece of thread or stuck down, something wedged down in there. You can get it thread locked like any machine can. And I just put one needle plate screw in here so I could pop this off for you real quick. I didn't put the screw in the side so I could pop that off for you real quick. So I'm going to show you a couple things you need to know about this machine if you decide that you want to get brave and figure out why it's locked up. The bobbin case comes out like so. Let me bring it down here a little bit so you can see what's going on with the bobbin case. Sorry about the bouncing around, but you know, got this high-tech equipment here at my disposal. This is the release to take your cover off. The bobbin comes out like so. To get the bobbin case out, you take these 2 screws out, 1, 2. You lift this off. Then your bobbin case, these screws, you don't have to loosen any of these screws. Leave these screws alone. That sets your thread gap. Once it's set, you want to leave it alone. Don't unloosen these screws. It lifts right out. Excellent. It's got a little bit better of this older machine. The newer ones, these are getting so wafer thin that if the needle hits it, almost trashes them. So this one here is a pretty good one. Hasn't been hit at all. It wasn't dinged up. It was in pretty good shape. The needle plate, you know, I had to polish it up. It had some dings on it on the back where maybe somebody was helping it, and I had to polish out those grooves on it. But you'll notice in the center here, there's a red felt. I put that back in there because the white one that was in there, someone had removed it thinking it was lint. That is an oil reservoir. You keep oil on that, and it feeds down into that main bearing down underneath so that it'll keep it oiled. Because when that gets dry, this thing will lock up like it's welded, and people throw them away because they took the piece of oil, the oiling wick out that holds the oil in place. So you'll notice that the bobbin case has a hole right there. That hole right there, what's that for? Well, if you put the bobbin case in place, you'll notice that that hole fits right over that red wick. So you can put a drop of oil in there every week or so if you sew a lot, every 6 months. But make sure to know you reach in and touch that wick. If there's oil on your finger, then your wick is fine. If it's dry, you better oil it. That takes care of that. And here I tell people anything that hinges, rotates, pivots, or slides gets a drop of oil. So you can get good access in here, and anything that, you know, you see the 2 things coming together, you give it a drop, 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 needle bar slide, pivot on top, swings back and forth, you know, give it a drop. Anything that hinges, rotates, pivots, or slides, give it a drop. That takes care of that over there. Down underneath, one of the Achilles heels of this machine is that it has the thread catcher down below, and it has the composite gear here. And of course, Singer, they like to grease that up real good, and then all the lint would pack down in there, in that grease because it'd stick to it like a magnet. And I'd get to them in the schools, and they'd say they were locked up because this was wedged. The lint comes down and catches in the lint catcher, which is the bottom cover, which I have off. But it would pack in here and get that's where it would break the gears. So you got to keep this cleaned up because the clearance there doesn't allow for the lint to build up without getting into the gears. And I cleaned that out. It was packed pretty tight. You have places on the end here to oil, main bearing there. Got a main bearing here you can oil. So you get the bottom off this, 2 screws there, 4 screws here. You can take the bottom off. You can get to it. You can maintain it. Has a nice fractional horsepower motor, same as you have in the heavy duty. That's a very standard motor. I have probably 50 of them here. They fit about everything. Standard little motors. They're cheap. They practically give them away. So anything here that rotates, any of these bearings, you give it a drop. Same with up here on the side. To get in here, you have 1 screw to take off. You pull this off on the side. That's your selector for your stitches. And you unplug it, and then you pop this off. And Viola, you got access in here to clean this out. Make sure there's no lint. And quite often I'd get to the school, and this belt was off. It would come off. It wouldn't break, but you step on the gas, and it would just spin the motor. I say, well, the belt's off. So I would get in here, put the belt back on, put the screw on, put it back together, and be back in business. So these things, they have problems that are not unsurmountable unless it breaks a gear or unless something happens. This little spool pin up here on top, this is what happened most often. The spool pin on top that holds your spool, like here, this thing's plastic. And people would reach in and get the handle lifted, and they'd snap this right off. But here's something they don't let you know about. It's kind of a hidden feature. That is the auxiliary spool pin. It's underneath this goofy little thing right here. You're like, what's going on with that? Well, you pull this little tab off here. Let's see if I can get this crazy thing off, because they do a real good job of making sure you can't find that thing. You peel this up, and look, I did a video on auxiliary spool pins. There's a spool pin that fits right down in there. So when that breaks off, you get out your auxiliary spool pin. Sometimes they come with them and they're in the accessory pack. You put it in there and you're back in business and ready to go. So keep that in mind, because these spool pins are plastic, and plastic's job is to break. Plastic never disappoints. It always does its job, usually at the most inopportune time. So all things considered, not a bad machine. I mean, you can certainly do worse. Look, the hook assembly's metal. We did one the other day that was plastic. Good Lord, plastic hook, that can't happen. You can get away with a plastic bobbin case. That's been going on forever. I don't like it. I prefer metal, but it's not doomsday. But plastic hook assembly is doomsday. And if anybody sells you one of those, take it back. Say, what are you talking about? You can't be selling me a plastic hook assembly. That's just nonsense. It's totally ludicrous to have a plastic bobbin case. I'm going to get this back together just a little bit. I'm going to show you how to thread it, how to wind a bobbin, because I got a lady yesterday mad at me because she said, you didn't show me how to thread or wind a bobbin. Okay, I will do that. I will show you how to thread it, and I will show you how to wind the bobbin, because it winds just like in my video that I made entitled How to Thread Every Machine That Was Ever Made. This one threads the same as all of those. I'm going to put this on here. I guess I'll get it on there correctly. That might help. Get this lined up. There's a little post in there and it snaps in place. There we go. Now, to wind the bobbin, to thread it up, let's plug it back up so we get a little light on the subject, because the daggone light comes on if you have it plugged in. Most often, I'll put the selector gear back on there. All right, get that over here. Now, to wind the bobbin, whenever you wind the bobbin, thread the machine. We'll wind the bobbin in a second. Whenever you thread the machine, first thing you do is raise the presser foot up. That's always step one on any machine, ever, at any time. What that does is it spreads the tension disc apart, because this has lay-in threading, and the discs are down in there. You can't see them, but they're down in there. So you pull it off the spool, put it in the first guide here on top. It has little arrows to help you go, but sometimes that can be confusing because you don't see this one here because it's not colored. It's kind of a half tone, and this, it gets pretty wacky. So you put it in here, number 1, here, and then you go behind this guide, and you go over the top. Make sure that you have the presser foot lifted up, spread your disc apart. Right here is where your tension discs are. You take it down, around, back up behind there. It'll click in. There's a little guide that'll click in. And at that point, you always lower the presser foot and you pull. Make sure it's there, and you pull, and you'll feel the resistance. I always say, like someone has a hold of it and won't let go. That's how you know you have it threaded correctly. And at that point, you'll know to continue the threading process. If not, try it again because you didn't get it between the discs. So what you do is you take it down to this guide. There's another guide right above the needle, right here. You slide it in behind there. And I'm doing this quickly because I didn't mean to make a 20-minute video, but that's the way it turns out sometimes. Snip your thread, make sure your needle's at its highest point, and then you thread your needle front to back. Let's get some light on the subject here. Maybe I can do it. It's been known to happen. 3rd time's a charm. It's got the little white thing behind it there, so you get a little contrast. That's kind of nice. Threads to the rear. Take your bobbin that we're going to wind. We'll start off with this one here. It's already wound just to get you going. Put it in so it's turning counterclockwise. Put it in the slot over here about the 7 o'clock position. I hold the bobbin still, pull it over to about the 8 o'clock position. You'll feel it slide in behind the daggone spring there on the bobbin case. You'll feel the resistance when you pull this. You know you got it right. Hold this thread to the rear, your upper thread to the rear. Turn your hand wheel towards you. You never turn it away from you. That'll jam every machine that's ever been made. The hand wheel always goes towards you, unless it's an old domestic or white rotary from 1949, and that's not what this is. So, hand wheel towards you, 2 threads to the rear. Put your cover back on, like so. Put your work back in. Always hold your thread. First stitch, always you hold the thread because it's going to demand from either back here, suck these down in, or your spool on top. So you want to make sure you always hold your threads. Once it makes the first stitch, you can let go, and then you're in business. Then you're sewing. All right, let's wind a bobbin real quick so I can get this done. Less than 20 minutes. Thanks for bearing with me. We want to make sure everybody's happy. Okay, let's undo this. Okay, lift the presser foot up. Now we have it not in the thread mode, we have it in the wind mode. See, it shows it coming off the spool, through the guide, and it has you going all the way around from the front, between the little disc right here. There's a little spring-loaded disc going to be in there, so you have a little pinch so it puts resistance on it. All the way around the back, and then to the front. And it's in there nice and tight, so you feel the resistance. You got to make sure it's in there properly between the discs, so it has a little pinch on it, a little tiny spring. Okay, now you'll get a plastic 15 class bobbin. It's got to, I'm sorry about that. It's got to be plastic because a metal one will react to the magnet that's down underneath the bobbin case. There's a magnet down underneath that holds it in place. So don't use a metal bobbin on this. Use a plastic 15 class. Goes on here. I always put the thread up through the hole. Up through the hole. And then after I put it up through the hole, then I put it on the bobbin winder post. I'm trying to do this through the camera, and as you can see, I'm not that good at it. All right, up through the top. Then I put it on the post, and then you engage it. You don't have to unlock anything. It does it internally, and it'll do it for a while till it breaks. Just be gentle with it. And you step on the gas and you run it, and it will cut that thread at the top eventually, like so. Cut it clean, and you keep an eye on the thread. Make sure it doesn't jump out of your guide over here. Sometimes I will hold it over here, put a little resistance on it, so that way it doesn't jump out of the guide, and it'll wind nice and evenly over here. This is a stop over here. You can adjust as an eccentric. You can loosen it, turn the eccentric to make it fill halfway, all the way, 3/4 of the way, but that'll get you where it needs to be. I'll take it up so you'll see what happens when it gets full. What it does is it will shut off automatically if it doesn't make me a liar. And it's going to shut off right there, okay? Stop spinning. So that's how you do that. That's how you thread it. That's how you wind a bobbin. That's how you load the bobbin. That's how you maybe do a quick do-it-yourself service, but not a bad machine. You know, like I say, it's not my first choice. It's not a Slant-O-Matic Singer. It's not a Kenmore 158 or a 385 steel gear front load 15 class. But if you already own it, you know what to do to take care of it, what to avoid. Don't sew on heavy stuff. You'll do okay with the machine. Occasional sewing, somebody who's not going to open an alteration shop, somebody who's not going to, you know, have an Etsy account. It's a good light duty to medium duty machine. It'll make a good one if you can find one of these for 15 bucks somewhere. Just, you know, do what you can to get it going. There's bargain machines out there. This might be one of them. All right, the Singer Scholastic Plus, and it's the model 6550. All righty, thanks.